Welcome to the Workplace Wellbeing Essential Series. I'm Mari Ryan. I'm the CEO and founder of Advancing Wellness. It's my pleasure to welcome you to this expert interview where we explore topics that relate to employee well-being. My guest today is Ed Kramer. Ed, for the past 14 years, has been in the role of Senior Director of Health and Behavioral Sciences at Health Fitness Corporation. In this role, Ed is responsible for health and behavioral sciences information acquisition and dissemination, as well as generation of science-based health recommendations. Ed has both clinical and administrative experience across a wide spectrum of physical and behavioral health issues, including clinical psychology, health psychology, organizational psychology, behavioral analysis, behavioral medicine, and behavioral incentives. Ed earned his Ph.D. in clinical psychology from North Texas State University in Denton, Texas. When not understanding or motivating behavior change, Ed can be found working on a long-term home renovation project. Ed, welcome. I'm so excited to have you here today.
Thank you, Mari. It's a pleasure to be here with you.
Thanks. Well, today we're going to explore some elements around behavior change, and in particular, the topic around health coaching. We all know that behavior change is hard. You'll think about your New Year's resolutions. Those are probably long gone by now. For that reason, many employers, insurance companies, and EAPs are offering support to their employees in the form of health coaching. Unfortunately, this is a service that is underutilized by many employees. So today we're going to explore what it takes to do great health coaching and the benefits it provides to both the employee and the organization in which they work. So Ed, let's start by talking a little bit about what is health coaching exactly. Perhaps not everybody in our audience knows exactly what health coaching is.
Okay, happy to, Mari. Health coaching is very similar to coaching in athletics. The difference being is you're actually working with people's health-oriented behaviors and not with a lot of the physical things like doing a flip. When we work on these, it's very important to remember this is not therapy. This is coaching. And coaches listen carefully to what the client is saying in terms of what do I want? What am I trying to accomplish? It's not going into the deepest aspects of somebody's psyche.
Okay. So what would you say is really the difference then between coaching? So it's not about the psychological aspect of who I am as a being. Mm-hmm. Can you say a little bit more about that difference between the health coaching and the therapy piece?
Sure. Therapy is frequently trying to get to what are a lot about your history and knowing what kinds of things have traumatized you in your life, what you're concerned about, a lot about what upset you and how you can generate new and different behavior that helps you be more satisfied with your life. Mm-hmm. When you're coaching for health, you're frequently looking at what does the client want to accomplish. They'll come in and say, I want to lose weight. I'd like to be more physically active. I don't think I eat very well. They'll be bringing more issues around health and living to you as opposed to issues about what's wrong with my life in a more general way. And that's really a lot of the big differences.
Great clarification. Thank you.
You
what
bet.
What are the benefits to the individual who's receiving the coaching?
When people join a health coaching situation, what they get in terms of benefits are often new and better behavioral skills for problem solving around health. They find themselves hopefully actually generating better health over time, because that's an important issue for many of us in the culture today. People become more mindful as a result of health coaching and more in the present. And I hope I'm not using a term that most people aren't familiar with, but people start to avoid less. They start to confront things more and to deal more effectively with the issues that have blocked them from good health behaviors.
Excellent. All right. That's a good way to think about with some of the benefits the individual receives.
Mm-hmm.
What might be the benefits to the organization in which this person works when an employee receives coaching?
The organization, first and foremost, will find that employees who've undergone health coaching tend to be more productive. If you're avoiding a lot of concerns in many areas of your life, including health, you tend to be more distracted, less present, less available to what you're trying to accomplish. When people are working hard in health coaching and getting personal benefits, I find the organization almost always gets a more productive employee. And I'm certainly not the only person who's saying this. Other things that the organization gets is if they have a lot of employees who are actually engaged in health coaching, over time, they should see changes in health behavior, in the culture of health that many companies are currently hoping to generate in their organizations. And I find that one of the things that, or another thing perhaps that they will also get is they will get a happier organization out of people if they've had a lot of people undergoing the health coaching process.
Well, that sounds like it's going to make for a really more wonderful workplace for everyone then.
Yes, exactly. It may take a while. This is not something that you can do immediately or instantly, but yes, a happier workplace in which everyone seems to be working more effectively together.
Let's talk for a minute about this from the perspective of the coach. What are the skills that a coach needs to be, to provide great coaching? This isn't anything that just anybody can do, right?
It's not something that just anybody can do. And there are a couple of things coaches have to commit themselves to and learn to do over time, I think, in order to bring great coaching. It's not just a matter of learning to follow a particular script. It's one must bring oneself to the coaching situation with tremendous vulnerability, openness, the desire to serve. This is not about telling people what to do. It's about helping people figure out what will work best for them in order to accomplish the goals that they bring to the coach. And if you're doing good coaching, it's probably a little scary for the coach because you're going to be very present. You're going to be kind of what people refer to as being out there on the edge. You're going to be listening very actively. And sometimes you're actually going to have to say to a client, whoops, I think I pushed that a little too hard. Can we back up and let me try that again? And people don't naturally do that. It's a very different kind. So you have to bring presence, vulnerability, openness, and listening all in a very active way. And I've just found that many clients, many coaches have a hard time bringing that to the situation. And it often takes a tremendous amount of training. And I'm probably going to insult some people, but it's different than the training I often see talked about for health coaches.
Very interesting. So that's a very interesting combination of skills and talents to a certain extent.
Yes, and you have to know the information in the areas in which you're coaching as well, which often takes a while to learn and become proficient at, because most of us come to it with, oh, I had a psychology background, oh, I had a nutrition background, perhaps I have a physical activity background, etc. And when you try to coach, that's not the only, those aren't the only areas or concerns that a participant may bring to you. So you end up having to work with with coaches in order to acquire a whole broader range of skills than they currently have. It also helps to teach people to be empirical and to be willing to develop and look at I guess develop and look at data points that actually say whether or not they're doing what they meant to do with the client and producing the results that they and the client agreed on, and often that the employer would like to see.
Interesting. Very interesting.
Well, if you don't look at what you're doing, if you're having a hard time looking at what you're doing, it's very difficult to know if you're on the right path, and what you have to retain and what you would like to change.
Well, like anything else, I guess we have to be able to measure it.
Yes, this is exactly right. You have to be able to measure it. And a lot of times what people measure is we measure, are we doing what we meant to do? As opposed to measuring, are we bringing the outcomes that everybody is looking for? And that's a very different way of going at it.
It is very different. I'm curious, Ed, why do you think that these health coaching services are so underutilized?
Oh, there are probably 2 or 3 main reasons. The first one is a lot of organizations and which are out there today originally talked down live coaching over probably the last decade, because everybody was getting enamored of automation. And, like we can have a story about the person and we can plug the person into the story, and everything will go fine. Our computers will get the job done. And what people have been finding is not so. Computers can help with scalability, and they can help do certain jobs for the coach and for the client, but you still need good people in the loop. We're not so practiced at turning all of these things into expert systems or neural networks that you can just count on the computer to get things done. But that was actually something that's been said a lot over the last 5 to 10 years. And I think it's kind of pushed coaching down in a lot of people's eyes.
Yes.
Okay. A second thing that I think is going on is people haven't learned to be, as we were talking earlier, data-based. They don't really look at what they're doing. They look at what we're doing that we hope, are we doing the right skills as opposed to are we getting the right outcomes? It's probably the best way to say it. Sorry, it took a second to kind of get that organized. But that's when one does that, it means that people over time aren't getting the results that they hoped to get and that they were paying for. And now suddenly people start to push back and say, this is not good enough. You're nice people, but you're not doing a good enough job. And I think that's really, that's hurt us over the last 10, 15 years. Before that, people didn't really expect the kinds of outcomes that are being expected today. So I think it's harder to do today. You really actually have to be more empirical and and have better coaching programs and better training for your coaches than was necessary, say, 15, 20 years ago.
I'm curious whether there's much research that is emerging. I mean, health coaching's been around for a while now. Is there much research that shows the efficacy of health coaching?
It's a mixed bag, Mari. There there's research out there that, and almost every company that does health coaching is taking some kinds of data to try and look at what they're doing, but we rarely ask, I think, and this is just my opinion, I think we rarely ask the right questions about what's going on. Everything gets turned into percentages. We had 40% of the people who did this and 20% of the people who did that, and we held on to 60% of your people for at least 6 months, those sorts of things. You can't improve a program from that kind of data. It doesn't tell you anything. You're kind of like looking at averages or summary scores, and you have no way of understanding what I as a coach need to do in order to get better. How many of my people are actually learning to do what they came to me for? Okay, so we're just not, most of what's out there, I think, is not, we are not looking at the right way at what we need to be doing in order to get the outcomes that are generally desired. And I don't know that the literature in general has caught up to that yet. There are other problems like a lot of failure to be able to keep people in your programs long enough to see long-term changes, those sorts of things. But, we could start nitpicking in those areas, and I don't think that would be productive on this call.
Well, I think that's an opportunity that hopefully we will see some continuing results, because I know actually I have many close friends who are health coaches and have seen the results, and I know that it's an important thing. And to me, it's a shame that it's such an underutilized resource in so many ways, because it has, for some individuals, it can have huge life-changing benefit.
It can, and really, I think it can have life-changing benefits for the vast majority of people who come to us. We as health coaches and as providers of health coaching services simply need to do a better job than has often been done in the past. Again, that means we have to become more empirical, be able to start looking at be willing to look at ourselves, confront what we're doing well and what we're not doing well, and learn to change. And that's hard. I mean, I'm telling you, that's really hard. That's not what we often get paid to do. People want to be right too much of the time and are afraid to make mistakes and learn from them. And I worry that that's, part of what's holding up what I would call really dramatically good health coaching.
Well, thank you for sharing that perspective.
Sure.
And if our audience wants to learn more about you and the work that you're doing, where can they find you?
They can find me at ed.framer@hfit.com, or I'm on LinkedIn. Just put in my name, I'll come up, and I would be happy to respond to people.
Wonderful. Thanks so much for being here today and sharing your perspectives on this important topic that's related to employee well-being. Thanks.
Well, thank you for inviting me, Mari. It's been a pleasure.